Welcome to Money Muscle Mindset, the podcast designed to motivate and educate you on your journey to financial and fitness success and to develop the mentality needed to achieve your goals. I'm Zay Molina, and in this episode, we're going to talk about sacrifice versus investment. Okay. And what that basically means, guys, is we're going to be discussing how framing your effort can change its impact. You know, so many people immediately think to be successful, I need to sacrifice things, right? I have to sacrifice certain things in my life to have success, which, yes, I would say I 100% agree, but you don't want to think about it that way, right? Because when you start to think about sacrificing things, it can lead to resentment or fatigue or just feeling like you don't really want to do it, right? Because it's a sacrifice. It seems like a negative thing. But when you start to think about your effort as an investment towards your future, this can lead to more motivation or more consistency because now you're looking at it as a positive thing, right? That's going to help you with more growth. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what this means and how we can reframe our thinking from sacrifice to investment. So let's first talk about why this language is so important, why it shapes our effort. Okay. So first off, think about the word sacrifice, right? What do you envision when you hear the word sacrifice, right? It kind of implies loss, right? It implies giving something up, right? It implies losing something, right? And these are all kind of negative aspects when we hear the word sacrifice, right? We are losing something. But when you think about the word investment, right? What does that sound like? Well, when you invest money, right? What are you doing? You're giving it a chance to grow, right? You're looking at the long term. You think about compounding interest, right? You think about all these different things of if I start to invest, that can lead to more growth. That can lead me to expanding and having more in the future. So just behind the two words themselves, right? Sacrifice and investment, right? You can see the two different meanings, the two different emotional output that they have, right? Sacrifice again implies loss and can be negative, right? That's the way we kind of think about the word sacrifice, right? But when it comes to investment, right? We're thinking positive, we're thinking growth. So by having that positive mindset and thinking investment, right? It can lead to, again, more motivation, more consistency versus the sacrificial thinking. Think about it this way, right? Think about your fitness journey, right? When you say, oh, I need to eat healthy, right? I have to give up junk food. I have to give up eating bad to be healthy, right? That sounds bad, right? Because you're sacrificing junk food. You're sacrificing the bad things, right? And it feels like it's a chore, right? It's something you have to do, right? And it kind of feels negative, right? But when you start to say, I'm going to start investing in my health, right? And I'm going to start eating healthy because I can, because I get to, right? I'm going to start going to the gym and getting the opportunity to build stronger muscles and start to invest in my long-term health. Doesn't that sound a little bit better? Doesn't it sound a little bit more motivating than saying, oh, I have to give up this, right? Because again, it leads to those two different emotions, right? One's positive, one's, thinking about the long-term future versus one's thinking about, oh, what do I actually have to give up to have this thing, right? And it can kind of lead to a possible debate within yourself to say, is it even worth it, right? Do I really want to be healthy and have to give up all the things that I love? When you start to think about it that way, it's actually going to be harder to actually want to go and achieve the goals that you want because you're thinking about all the things you have to give up. It's kind of like looking backwards, right? Looking at all the things that you've passed, all the things you're leaving behind, right? But when you think about investment, you're looking forward, right? You're seeing the possibilities, you're seeing the potential growth, right? So again, don't look back and have to see all the things that you sacrifice, right? Look forward and look into all the investments. Look at the potential growth that you have there, right? Think about the exciting things that come with investing versus sacrifice. Same thing when it comes to your finances. When you say, oh, I have to save this money, my friends are going out to the bar tonight, to the club, right? And instead of me wasting money on that, I have to save it, right? And again, it's giving that negative feeling. But when you say, you know what, I get to save this money, right? I get to invest this money because I was able to actually make a little bit more than what my expenses were this month, right? So I get the opportunity to start saving and start investing this money rather than go blow it on something that I don't need. And so again, when you start to look at it that way, right, you're looking at the opportunity versus the have to versus the sacrifice. It's building that discipline inside yourself, right? And a lot of people, they hear that word discipline, and again, they immediately think negative, right? Discipline sounds like a negative word where it's like, oh, you get in trouble, you're being disciplined, right? But you got to look at it as a positive, right? Discipline is a sign of self-respect, right? Being disciplined and doing the things that you know is going to lead to long-term growth, right? That is a sign of self-respect that's going to help motivate you to keep going after your goals. Don't look at discipline as a bad thing, as something that you have to do, right? But look at it as something that you get to do for your future self. And there's actually been studies on this that prove that reframing your effort and your thinking can actually lead to long-term motivation. Because again, you're not looking at all the things you have to give up. You're looking at all the opportunity for growth, for your potential to hit your goals. And when you think about it that way, that definitely sounds more exciting, doesn't it? Right? Instead of thinking about, oh, I have to give this up. Oh, I'm leaving all of this behind, right? You're looking at the opportunity to say, you know what? This is what I can become. This is what I can achieve when I look at it as investment versus sacrifice. Because when you view your actions as investments, right, you're now looking for ROI, right? Return on investments, right? You're not necessarily looking for relief, right? Think about it this way, right? How many times when we say, oh, I have to eat healthy, I have to do good, right? And I'm guilty of this myself, right? I'll be meal prepping, I'll have all my meals ready to go. And there's days where I'm like, oh, I have to go home and eat that. I can't go out and get fast food or go to my favorite restaurant, right? I have to go home and eat this. And what does that start leading to? Well, now you start thinking about all the stuff you're giving up. You're giving up your favorite foods. You're giving up your favorite fast food place, right? Quick little meal that, is going to satisfy you in the moment, right? That short-term satisfaction, right? You start to think about that to where now you can now justify that, okay, you know what? I've eaten good 2-3 days in a row. Let me just have a cheat meal. Yeah, I know it's not in my plan. I'm supposed to wait at least a couple more days, but because I've been doing good, you know what? I'm gonna give into that craving, right? And that's gonna give me relief to where, you know what? Now I have this extra cheat meal. And yes, again, in the moment, it's a short-term satisfaction. You're happy, you enjoyed it, right? But long-term, it's actually holding you back just a little bit because after you do it once, it now leads to, I just did another couple days good. Let me go have another cheat meal and then another cheat meal. And then before you know it, you're back to your bad eating habits. And that all stemmed from the initial thought of, I have to go home and eat healthy. But what if you thought about it is, you know what? I get to go home and eat a healthy meal that's going to help me achieve my goals. I'm trying to lose fat. I'm trying to gain muscle, right? By going home and eating the meals that I know that meet my macros, give me enough protein, low carbs, low fats, whatever it may be, right? I know these are going to lead to my long-term goals. So I'm not looking at all the things that I'm sacrificing and all the bad junk food that I'm giving up, right? I'm now looking at, hey, this is an opportunity for me to see the physical results that I want to see in my body. Again, I'm not looking at the sacrifice. I'm looking at the investment, right? This is going to lead to my long-term fitness goals. So when you face those challenges, those cravings and all these kind of things, right? Ask yourself, you know what does this choice hold for my future, right? If I decide to go out and have that extra cheat meal when I'm not supposed to, right? It's not going to lead to immediate fat gain and I'm going to lose all my progress, right? But it's going to start the ball rolling down the hill of possible bad habits where you start to go back into that eating bad again, right? Because now that little sense of relief, right, kind of lets you, oh man, I missed this so much. You know what? I don't want to give this up. I don't want to sacrifice this anymore, right? And that kind of leads to the negative results, right? But when you're disciplined to say, you know what? I want to invest in my future. I want to invest in my health long term, right? So I understand that, yes, I'm having these cravings, but at home, I meal prepped over the weekend. I have my meals ready to go. I know they're ready for me. All I got to do is get there, get home, warm this up and eat this for the night. I can combat those cravings. I'm not even thinking about those cravings because I know that that meal is an investment towards my future health, right? It's going to help me achieve the goals that I want, right? I'm trying to build muscle. I know I need to get enough protein. I'm going to have that instead of going out and having pizza. I'm trying to lose fat. This is a low calorie diet versus going out and having a big greasy burger, right? I understand that if I'm looking towards the investment towards my health, right? Obviously, having the meal prep at home is the better choice. So by thinking about your goals in terms of investments, guys, this is going to help you stay consistent longer, right? This can help you avoid burnout because now you're thinking about the positive things of, if I continue to do this, what can this lead towards my future? This can help you find the meaning in discipline, right? Because I'm staying disciplined, because I'm doing this, right? This is going to lead to longer term habits, which are going to help me achieve those goals that I have. And then from there, it's going to lead to long-term confidence to say, you know what? I fought off this craving once. I can do it again. I can keep pushing myself to stay consistent, to stay disciplined, to keep doing the choices that I know are going to lead to long-term growth versus giving into that, short-term satisfaction. Same thing when it comes to your finances, right? Maybe your friends are going out and partying every weekend, right? And you used to do that all the time, but now you're thinking about your long-term future, right? Maybe you're in an apartment right now and you want a house, right? And you're like, you know what? I need to start saving for this. So instead of going out on the weekends and partying and doing all this stuff for the short-term satisfaction, let me start saving that money. Let me start putting it into crypto or Forex or stocks or something where I can invest my money and give it a chance to actually grow and see long-term growth to help me achieve that goal of buying a house one day. Again, don't think about, I'm sacrificing having fun with my friends. Think about the investment of, you know what? This money going into these investments, going into my savings account, right? That's going to lead to me having the house that I've always wanted, my dream house, right? My dream car, right? Traveling the world, right? That is going to lead to my long-term, my future goals versus something that's going to be exciting just for one night. So again, think about the long-term, right? Reframe your psychology to investment thinking, because when you start to think about your future goals and what can lead up to that, right? That's going to be more promising. That's going to be more exciting than what you're actually giving up, right? Again, don't look back, right? Don't look in that rearview mirror, right? Think about all the possibilities forward. So how can we do this, right? How can we implement this into our lives, right? How do we switch from that sacrifice thinking to investment thinking? Well, the first way that I think can really help us all is get rid of the words I have to, right? When you say, I have to do this, or I have to do that, I have to go to the gym, I have to save money, right? I have to go work on my side hustle, right? That leads to the negative feeling of this is a chore. This is not something exciting, right? Something that I have to do, right? And that leads to that negative thought process behind it, which could lead to you giving up and not wanting to do it anymore. So stop saying I have to and start saying I get to, right? right? I get to go to the gym. I get to work on myself, right? I get to save this money. I was able to make more money than I spent this last month. So I'm able to save and invest this, right? I get that opportunity to grow. I get the opportunity to learn and want to learn a new language or learn a new side hustle, right? I get that opportunity to become better and achieve my goals. Again, that's helping you think about the investment in the long-term future versus the sacrificial thinking of this is negative. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. Okay. So once you start to reframe how you talk to yourself and how you talk about your actions, right? The next step I would say is, start tracking your progress, right? When you go to the gym, track your workouts, right? Focus on progressive overload, right? Starting at this weight. Okay. This is where I'm at. Next time I return to this exercise, maybe I try to go up a little bit in weight, or maybe I try to increase my reps just slightly, right? And that's going to help me see actual growth versus just doing the same thing over and over. When you start to save money, right? Actually write down this month I was able to save this amount of money, right? Next month I'm able to save this amount of money, right? And start to track that and make sure it's not going down, make sure it's not going backwards, right? But keep track of actually how much you have in saves in your investments, right? And again, that's going to help you start to plan a little bit better and budget a little bit better. So again, start tracking your progress, right? Because that's going to lead to more consistency. That's going to lead to more confidence to say, you know what? I've already done this once before. I can do this again. And then last but not least, guys, I've been saying it all episode. Again, focus on the long term, not short term, right? When you have a decision to make, say, you know what? Should I have this cheat meal or should I continue towards my long-term goals, right? Should I go out and party with my friends just for this one night, or should I save that money towards my long-term goals, right? What is going to be beneficial for you, for your future, for your actual goals and your achievements, right? Again, don't give into those satisfactions. Don't give into those cravings, guys, right? Go after what's actually going to help you achieve long-term satisfaction versus just that short-term satisfaction. Ask yourself, will this help me 6 months from now? Will this help me a year from now, right? Is this something that's going to actually benefit my future, or is this something that's just going to benefit me now in the moment? That's going to help lead you to investment thinking. Again, you're thinking about the long-term growth, right? The compounding, right? Versus, this is something that's just in the short term, right? This is something that I have to give up because I want that long-term growth, right? When you start to think about it that way, guys, again, you start to bring in all those negative feelings. Get rid of the sacrificial, right? Again, don't look behind you. Don't look back about all the things that you have to give up. Look forward. Think about, if I start doing this now, this is an investment towards my future and towards my goals. And by doing that, guys, just that simple psychological fix can help you with long-term growth. So with that being said, guys, that's what I got for you guys on today's episode. I hope you guys got some benefits from this episode. Again, stop thinking about the sacrifices and all the things you have to give up. Start thinking about the opportunities and the investment towards your future and all the things that you get to do to help you achieve your goals. So with that, thank you guys once again for watching. And I'm going to leave you guys as I always do. Remember, success isn't just about the money you make or the muscles you build. It's also about the mindset you develop along the way. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Money Muscle Mindset.